Hi, I'm Mike Ricksecker, and this is Haunted Road Media. So, Annabelle Creation, yes, it is a prequel of a prequel movie. So, from the Conjuring universe that they are now dubbing it, the first Annabelle movie was a prequel of The Conjuring, and this movie is a prequel of Annabelle. So, what is different here? Does it answer any questions for it? Is it better? Well, let's get into all of that. So in this movie, we do actually see the creation of the Annabelle doll. The movie starts off at a large farm, a big farmhouse with a barn outside, and there's a man inside that is actually creating the very first Annabelle doll. Limited edition, one of 100. The toy maker and his wife do have a daughter that they love very much, that is with them there in this big large farmhouse, but unfortunately she meets an accident and dies. Well, fast forward 12 years, the toy maker and his wife are still there at the farmhouse. He doesn't really seem to be making any toys anymore. The house has fallen into a dilapidated state, although still functional, still beautiful inside. And they've decided to take on a small orphanage of girls. So there's 6 of these girls. Some of them we don't really get to know very well, but that's okay. It would have been a little extraneous to get to know them. Our story mostly focuses on Janice and Linda, the 2 best friends in this movie. And they do have a nun, Sister Charlotte, that is taking care of them there at the house and teaching them their lessons while they're here at this orphanage. Janice is suffering from polio. We get to know her right away when she walks off the bus in her leg brace. And so this really speaks to the times. It makes her a much more dynamic character as well. So a lot of other people that have talked about this movie, reviews or others that I've talked to, didn't really make the connection. They mentioned very briefly at the beginning that it's polio, but people just see the leg brace and they're like, oh, she's handicapped. And we get vaccinated for this these days, so we don't really make that association because we don't see it anymore. But back at that time, it was actually fairly common. I have a aunt who suffered from polio as a child and still has problems walking to this day. But like I said, this makes Janice a much more dynamic character. There are times that, she can't go out and play with the other children. Her best friend Linda will approach her at times and want to stay with her in the house, and Janice will say, no, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want you to hang out with me because you're sorry for me. Go out and play with the other kids. Even though, of course, Janice is feeling a bit down and forlorn about all of this. So the situation does seem pretty ripe for Janice to befriend a little ghost girl. And this house does seem to be haunted by the little girl of the toy maker and his wife. Now, we don't see a lot of the wife during this time that the girls are there at the house because she has also suffered from an accident, but we're not really told what. That's a bit of a mystery that is kept for us. So the toy maker and his wife, are very, very secretive. Of course, there is a door, to a room that's locked and the girls are not allowed to get into, and that holds the secrets, of course, of this little girl. So we're having a lot of, the usual typical kind of haunted house type storytelling. There's sightings of the little girl, there's things that are moving around, we're hearing footsteps, and we start seeing the Annabelle doll moving around. So at this time, I'm still questioning. The big question I had going into this movie was, what exactly are they going to do to tie into the first Annabelle movie? Because in the first Annabelle movie, we see that the creation of Annabelle, the doll, and the possession of it is Annabelle Higgins getting gunned down in the house of, after they attacked Mia, and her blood is trickling into the eye of the doll. So that's how the possession occurs. So how do they resolve that in this movie, since this is the quote-unquote creation and there's supposed to be like a major haunting going on here involving the doll? Well, we do get that answered, and I will say that the movie makers did a very, very good job of drawing you into this, creepy haunted house. Here's this little girl that is haunting the residents. It did a very, very good job of drawing you into all that, and then all of a sudden just flipping the switch on you, and you're like, whoa, this is a different type of movie. I wasn't expecting this. I'm not so much of a jump scare type of person. There are some jump scares throughout the movie that are done pretty well, but it's a very good mixture of the jump scares with the slow draw into some of these different scenes. So they do a fantastic job with lighting the scenes and with, like I said, drawing you into some of these, playing it a little bit slower, to kind of, draw your attention to this spot. And They might take you in a different direction. They might give you a jump scare. You know, they might do something else on the screen in a different location. So they do a good job of mixing it up and not always being exactly what you're expecting. Once the movie ratchets up a little bit, I do question a little bit some of the editing because the toy maker had apparently made several of these Annabelle dolls. Remember, the first one we saw was one of 100. So to me, there must be some more of these around, and at different times, once the action starts going, you see the Annabelle doll in a number of different locations, like back to back to back, and you start to question, okay, how is this doll moving around so quickly? As well as the major haunting of this house, is it going on in multiple locations at the same time? So I did have to question that a little bit. And then of course there's some of the typical, you know, horror movie type of fodder. You know, things go down in the house and you start to question their decision making. You know, somebody's just, you know, died over here, and it's like, okay, so we're still gonna hang out here and, you know, go to bed upstairs like, you know, nothing's ever happened, that sort of thing. Or, you know, girls start screaming and, you know, nobody's coming, or at least immediately, and they set up a scene where one girl's here, there's some others down there, something starts happening to the one, she's screaming her head off, and they don't respond for like 5 or 10 minutes, you know, when she's doing some screaming elsewhere now. And it's like, they would have heard, but that's kind of typical for, you know, horror movies to have a few nonsensical things in there, some decision making that just to us are not common sense. But it's not overloaded with that in this movie. They actually do a very good job with the storytelling, in my opinion. I thought that the actors did a very good job. You know, sometimes they have problems with child actors, but these actors came off as very, very believable in their roles. You know, you have a couple of teenagers in there who are trying to spook each other, and they have a nice back and forth with each other, trying to scare each other until, of course, they really do get scared. I thought that the setting was done very well. You know, it's a small set. It's a single farmhouse for most of the movie, and they really did a good job of setting it up as a period piece. You know, the girls walk in, they're fascinated with the house, with how big it is, some of the different decorative pieces that they have around within the house. They see a television, they're, oh wow, you have a television. You know, because back in the day, not everybody did have a television. So that, along with Janice's affliction of the polio, does really make you feel like you were back in that time frame. Of course, big houses like this have a lot of nooks and crannies and secret places and those sorts of things that, of course, just amp up the whole mystery behind what's going on. For me personally, there's a couple things that I look for when it comes to a movie, and that is a strong story, and if it's part of a series especially, does it answer any questions from some of those previous movies? And so this movie does both of those things. I thought it was a strong story, much, much better than the first one, and it does actually wrap up and tie up some of those things from the previous Annabelle movie. So you'll get that here as well. So overall, I thought Annabelle Creation was a good movie. If you are a fan of the Conjuring universe, definitely I recommend you going to go see it. But even if this one is new for you, it's still a good movie for you to go check out and get familiar with that universe. So that's gonna do it for me. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this movie, what you thought of this review, and if you have not yet, please subscribe. Until next time.